Well, good morning, everybody. To get us started here on Tuesday, I just want to point out kind of a bigger picture pattern shift that's happening across North America. So what we're going to watch here is an animation that's in 5-day chunks looking at precipitation anomalies. Now, a couple things to point out. By the end of this week, we'll have the first of what could be several strong atmospheric river events coming into the western United States. We are expecting pretty heavy snows in parts of the upper Midwest and northern plains, and down here in parts of the Mid-South and the Red River Valley over toward the Mississippi Valley. We've got the next 3 days. We're going to be watching for some stronger storms in this region and through here, plus some very heavy rainfall. We will then watch late this weekend and early next week the potential for systems coming into New England and possibly some snow there. We'll talk about that at the end. But I want you just to see the overall progression of this pattern. So as I play this forward, remember, this is a 5-day sliding window of precipitation anomalies. And you can clearly see what we mean when we say that the jet stream is extended and zonal. Because all the way out here, starting the third week of March, the flow is coming in like this across the United States and making the turn. So again, what we've lost, we've been stressing this quite a bit, has been that big southeastern ridge and the deeper troughs over the west, which is what much of the last part of winter really delivered for us. So putting this all together, the next 15 days looks something like this in terms of total accumulated precipitation. Big questions I have are primarily centered around the East Coast. I think the pattern that we see in the Mid-South, back into the southern plains, the northern plains in California are pretty well established and been well represented in the models. What I will be wondering about is if these East Coast systems can actually make the turn and come up the East Coast, or if they go out to open ocean because of a lack of good high pressure to the north. That's going to be the concern. But in terms of just highly anomalous weather, I just want to point out that over the next 15 days, the European model continues to forecast incredibly large precipitation amounts, so high that they kind of go off of our typical color bar range. A lot of us will do a 15-day forecast and we'll have a minus 5.5 inches to plus 5.5 inches, and you can see we're clearly off of that scale in this area. And why that's happening is the Pacific jet has gone zonal again, and it's extended all the way from Japan clear to the west coast by Friday. We saw this back in January, although it was a little bit farther to the north. This is displaced further to the south, giving it that true Pineapple Express view, which is where it comes from Hawaii like this. So if we just look at total accumulated precipitation, again, we're just doing this day by day, looking at the model updates. We're going to watch the first major push coming in here. So this precip here already has a winter storm warning out for it today and tomorrow. And then this is the big push by Friday. That's system number 1. And then there's going to be another push early next week. Right there it is, Monday, Tuesday. There's the push on Tuesday night into Wednesday. And when we add all of this up over the next 10 days, it's just important to get an idea about where the heaviest precip is going to be. We know that the model will not be accurate on the amount, but it's giving us the right clues here. But there's the potential for 2 to 7 inches of liquid along the coast. A lot of this will be snow. The Klamath Mountains getting into the Sierra Nevada, there's 6 to 10 inches plus of liquid in the snow that's coming in here. And to the north, look at the Cascades. We'll see this in Utah, the Upper Colorado Basin, in the northern Rockies. There's a lot of moisture contained in this setup. If we look at how much snow the models are forecasting, we're going to do this relatively quickly. Just add it all up and have a look here. The potential for 30 to 50 plus inches of snow is there in the Sierra Nevada. Cascades up to 2+ feet of snow. Parts of Utah, Wyoming, the eastern side of the Snake River Valley. You can see another heavy band of snow through here, and then the Upper Colorado Basin looking at a lot. So it gets us just thinking about where we currently sit. It's March, so these numbers are very important this time of year. And we see a lot of 150 to over 300% of normal snowpack that stretches from California into Nevada, Utah, into the Upper Colorado Basin and down into Arizona. The numbers have been improving in the Pacific Northwest as well, and we're going to continue to see those numbers improve here in the Cascades and Northern Rockies as we go forward. Now, what I'm concerned about with the flooding threat is what this might do to the reservoirs. Currently, like Lake Oroville, since December, has come up 180 feet in depth. It's currently at 116% of its average depth for this time of year. And while these reservoirs look very full, all of this additional moisture will likely stress the reservoirs, because instead of having the rain snow line down there around 1,000 to 2,000 feet, which is where it had been for some of the previous systems that just came through, it's now expected to bump up by Friday to around 3,000 to 5,000 feet, and then maybe even higher than that for the subsequent systems next week due to how mild the conditions are going to be. So this is going to be putting rain on top of old snowpack, and that's going to set up a very A very serious flooding situation for California, which we've been trying to cover. Now, when you get over the Rocky Mountains, I want you to see what's going on in the midsection of the United States, because from Montana through the Dakotas, at least most of the Dakotas except for the northern tier here, but then getting into Minnesota, Wisconsin, much of the Midwest, the Mid-South, this last 30 days has been an extremely wet time period. We've been drier along the Gulf Coast in Florida. We've been drier in the plains out here as well. But this is an area that's seen some substantial moisture, and a lot of that's come in snow. Currently, the snowpack in through there, if you look at how much water's in it, we still have 2 to 5 plus inches, maybe here in northern Wisconsin and in the UP, and a lot of this will come into the Mississippi. There's 8, 9, 10 inches of liquid in some of this. But overall, what we just want to assess at this point in March is where do we currently stand with deep soil moisture. So I'm going to take you back to last December when we had fully felt the extent of the fall drought. So this hit the Missouri Valley, the Mississippi Valley, and the Ohio River Valley. And this is how things look now. So that's a major improvement over where we were in December to this point. And we've added more snow lately. Let's zoom back out on that, sorry. This is just the last 3 days of snow. So we can see that parts of the Sierra Nevada have grabbed another couple of feet of snow. We've had heavy snows in the interior. And then remember, the system that rolled out of the Dakotas into Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan put down in places well over 6 inches, plus the heavier snows we saw in New England out of this over the last 3 days. So how much more snow are we talking about here? Well, for the next 10 days using the 0Z ECMWF, which is the latest model we have, we won't use this for assessing the West. We've already looked at the West. We're primarily looking in through here at trying to figure out what are the probabilities of grabbing another 6 inches of snow. And the models have shoved this a little farther to the north, but they're still keeping this upper Midwest Northern Plains corridor open. Big questions I have are going to be for the New England area. We're going to take a close look at that in just a few seconds. Total precipitation, the wettest area is going to be down here in the Red River Valley through parts of the Tennessee Valley, northern parts of the southeast. Do note that this part of the eastern Corn Belt is actually going to get a bit of a break from some of the precipitation. And there's a lot of standing water in these fields right now, so this could be welcome. But the flooding problems down here in the lower Mississippi River Valley are going to continue and on states on either side of this as we go forward. And again, what we've got up here is mostly coming in the way of snow. Notice again that for now, much of the western and high plains stay drier in this pattern. But there are some good indications, maybe longer term, that might shift around a little bit. So our all hazards weather map today, we have the winter storm warnings out for Northern California, the Sierra Nevada. We have the winter storm warning that's still in South Dakota, with surrounded by winter weather advisories. This is a winter storm watch that has been posted here in parts of Minnesota, northern Iowa. We're talking here about a system later this week. Stronger winds, especially in South Carolina, and all of this is river flooding in through this area. So let's go to the high-res models and take a look. So this is the NAM. We're going to start this off at 8 o'clock this morning. As we play through the middle of this day, a lot of scattered snow here. This is why we're watching for the snow in this area, and that's showing up in the winter weather advisories. We do see that there's the potential for some light freezing drizzle coming out of Colorado into parts of Kansas and Nebraska, with heavier rains to the south, and some of these could be some stronger storms over the Red River Valley of the south and through this area tonight. As we then play into Wednesday, see some snow coming into Minnesota and Iowa, but the system that came into the west, focusing over here now, this is the one that's got the winter storm warnings out for Northern California. It's going to try to move through Idaho into Utah, and then into Montana, and start to spread snow here by later this week. And this is the kind of the first more organized system, we're going to see in the midsection of the country. Let's jump over to the multi-model analysis and pick it up there. So let's scoot forward until we pick up here right about there. That's now Thursday midday. So what we're seeing here is that both models are attempting to put this broader area of low pressure in place. And while the atmospheric river event is coming into California after Thursday with a low to the north, there is a system out ahead of it here. And you can see the snow in both models. That's going right over the top of the upper Midwest and the northern plains, hitting parts of Iowa, maybe northern Illinois, Wisconsin. And the heavier rains are going to stick down here into parts of the mid-south and southeast. Now, at this time, here we are 6 a.m. on Friday morning Central Time. This is just the first of a couple of big waves of moisture coming into California. And you can see both models representing this quite well. So we noticed that by the time we get into Saturday, the models are taking the system that started off Wednesday here and allowing it to produce some snow in southern Ontario, getting into the eastern Great Lakes and into parts of New England. But the models kind of diverge on the strength of that system by Saturday. Notice the GFS is snowier and the European is not. They both have then this front that'll stretch right in through here, adding more snow to parts of the Canadian Prairie and the Northern Plains by Saturday. And then that's going to be a part of another system we're going to have to watch going into the early next week. So we're going to see here in the European model that there's the potential for this cyclone. It's called a Miller-B cyclone. It comes right out of the mid-south and makes this turn north to form. See it right here? And if that would occur, again, this is more than a week out in the forecast right now. If that were to occur, this could be a major snow producer in the interior, but we're going to have to ask if there's ensemble support for it. Notice while I was talking about these systems, the west continues to get more of that strong onshore flow coming in. But notice that the European model does not agree with the GFS, which is what I'm circling over here on this system. The GFS wants to toss it further out to open ocean. That's the trick. It's all about the placement of the high pressure. You see, the GFS brings it over Lake Superior. The European keeps it over the Hudson Bay. That's why the system's going a bit farther to the north. Now, let's just add some stuff up here. How about snows for the upper Midwest, Northern Plains? We just take this out here to next Monday. You can see a lot of 3 to 8 inches of additional snow. We saw the heaviest snow potential being right in through this region of North Dakota, northern Minnesota. If we do go into New England, now I'm only showing you the European. You're not seeing the GFS. This is the snow that prompted the winter storm warnings. And then as we go forward, there comes a little bit more snow by Saturday. But then here's the system right there that we're watching. Now that timing on that is Monday, Tuesday of next week. Grain of salt when you look at this one. But I do want to let you know that there is a trough by next Monday, Tuesday in this area. We're missing the big block, but there's a trough. And the European ensemble wants to take, look at this, see the L's? This is where all the European ensemble low pressure members are located. And they are attempting to develop some sort of East Coast system. Now to get this to fully back up and come here, which would deliver the big snow, this high pressure cell needs to get larger and needs to move in this direction. That would help with all of this because the flow would come around the high like this, helping to displace this system farther to the west. I just want you to know that there is the risk early next week of that system along the East Coast. Okay, temperatures. With that high pressure I just mentioned, you're going to see the cooler air advancing. And the models continue on this kind of less intense forecast of the cold air extent in this corridor. It's been more mild here in this part of the Southwest, and more mild in California as well compared to what it had been showing. And we think that the duration of this will last into the 3rd week of March, but we're watching for what will happen after that. Last couple of things to talk about here. I want to give you another international perspective on the weather. Hot in Argentina around the Paraná River. Very hot in the next several days. Mild in Europe, mild in Asia. Okay, but the precipitation pattern, notice that while this atmospheric river sets up here, there's another one here that's coming in and hitting much of Europe, including Western Europe, which has been in drought. But speaking of drought, the models doubled down on this area in Argentina, keeping it drier, keeping the wettest conditions in southern Buenos Aires over towards southern Cordoba. Models are not really advancing this rain through this part of Argentina, which just continues to struggle with a season-long drought. So we'll leave it there, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow morning. Thanks.